My father arrived at college at an important moment in Pakistan's history. That summer, while my father was walking in the mountains, our dictator, General Zia, was killed in a mysterious plane crash, which people said was caused by a bomb hidden in a crate of mangoes. During my father's first term at college, national elections were held, which were won by Benazir Bhutto, daughter of the prime minister who had been executed when my father was a boy. Benazir was our first female prime minister and the first in the Islamic world. Suddenly, there was a lot of optimism about the future. Student organizations which had been banned under Zia became very active. My father quickly got involved in student politics and became known as a talented speaker and debater. He was made General Secretary of the Pakhtun Students Federation, PSF, which wanted equal rights for Pashtuns. The most important jobs in the army, bureaucracy, and government are all taken by the Punjabis because they come from the biggest and most powerful province. The other main students' organization was Islami Jamaat-e-Talaba, the student wing of the religious party Jamaat-Islami, which was powerful in many universities in Pakistan. They provided free textbooks and grants to students, but held deeply intolerant views, and their favorite pastime was to patrol universities and sabotage music concerts. The party had been close to General Zia and done badly in the elections. The president of their students' group in Zenhabzev College was Ishanul Haq Haqqani. Though he and my father were great rivals, they admired each other and later became friends. Haqqani says he is sure my father would have been president of the PSF and become a politician if he had been from a rich Khan family. Student politics was all about debating and charisma, but party politics required money. One of their most heated debates in that first year was over a novel. The book was called The Satanic Verses by Salman Rushdie and was a parody of the Prophet's life set in Bombay. Muslims widely considered it blasphemous, and it provoked so much outrage that it seemed people were talking of little else. The odd thing was that no one had even noticed the publication of the book to start with. It wasn't actually on sale in Pakistan. But then a series of articles appeared in our Urdu newspapers by a mullah close to our intelligence service, berating the book as offensive to the Prophet and saying it was the duty of good Muslims to protest. Soon mullahs all over Pakistan were denouncing the book, calling for it to be banned. Angry demonstrations were held. The most violent was held in Islamabad on 12th February 1989, when American flags were set alight in front of the American Center, even though Rushdie and his publishers were British. Police fired into the crowds, and 5 people were killed. The anger wasn't just in Pakistan. 2 days later, Ayatollah Khomeini, the supreme leader of Iran, issued a fatwa calling for Rushdie's assassination. My father's college held a heated debate in a packed room. Many students argued that the book should be banned and burned and the fatwa upheld. My father also saw the book as offensive to Islam, but believed strongly in freedom of speech. First, let's read the book, and then why not respond with our own book, he suggested. He ended by asking in a thundering voice my grandfather would have been proud of, "Is Islam such a weak religion that it cannot tolerate a book written against it? Not my Islam." For the first few years after graduating from Zehanzeb, my father worked as an English teacher in a well-known private college. But the salary was low, just 1,600 rupees a month, around $19, and my grandfather complained my father was not contributing to his household. It was also not enough for him to save for the wedding he hoped for to his beloved Tor Pekai. One of my father's colleagues at the school was his friend Mohammad Naim Khan. He and my father had studied for their bachelor's and master's degrees in English together and were both passionate about education. They were also both frustrated, as the school, it was very strict and unimaginative. Neither the students nor the teachers were supposed to have their own opinions. The owner's control was so tight They even frowned upon friendship amongst the teachers. My father longed for the freedom that would come with running his own school. He wanted to teach independent thought and hated the way the school he was at rewarded obedience above open-mindedness and creativity. So when Naeem lost his job after a dispute with the college administration, they decided to start their own school. Their original plan was to open a school in my father's village of Shahpur, where there was a desperate need. Like a shop in a community where there are no shops, he said. But when they went there to look for a building, there were banners everywhere advertising a school opening. Someone had beaten them to it. So they decided to set up an English medium school in Mingora, thinking that since Swat was a tourist destination, there would be a demand for learning in English. As my father was still teaching at SPS, Naeem wandered the streets looking for a place to rent. One day, he called my father excitedly to say he'd found the ideal spot. It was the ground floor of a 2-story building in a well-off area called Landikas, with a walled courtyard where students could gather. The previous tenants had also run a school, Ramada School. The owner got the name because he had once been to Turkey and seen a Ramada hotel. But the school had gone bankrupt, which perhaps should have made them think twice. Also, the building was on the banks of a river where people threw their rubbish, and it smelt foul in hot weather. My father went to see the building after work. It was a perfect night with stars and a full moon just above the trees, which he took to be a sign. I felt so happy, he recalls. My dream was coming true. Naeem and my father invested their entire savings of 60,000 rupees. They borrowed 30,000 rupees more to repaint the building, rented a shack across the road to live in, and went from door to door trying to find students. Unfortunately, the demand for English tuition turned out to be low, and there were unexpected drains on their income. My father's involvement in political discussions continued after college. Every day his fellow activists came to their home or school for lunch. "We can't afford all this entertaining," Naeem would complain. It was also becoming clear that while they were best friends, they found it hard to work as business partners. On top of that, there was a stream of guests who arrived from Shangla now that my father had a place for them to stay. We Pashtuns cannot turn away relatives or friends, however inconvenient. We don't respect privacy, and there is no such thing as making an appointment to see someone. Visitors can turn up whenever they wish. They can stay as long as they want. It was a nightmare for someone trying to start a business, and it drove Naeem to distraction. He joked to my father that if either of them had relatives to stay, they would have to pay a fine. My father kept trying to persuade Naeem's friends and family to stay so he might be fined too. However, after 3 months, Naeem had had enough. "We're supposed to be collecting money in enrollment fees," he complained. "Instead, the only people knocking on our doors are beggars. This is a Herculean task," he added. "I can't take any more." By this time, the two former friends were hardly speaking to each other and had to call in local elders to mediate. My father was desperate not to give up on the school, so agreed to pay Naeem a return on his share of the investment. He had no idea how. Fortunately, another old college friend called Hidayatullah stepped in and agreed to put up the money and take Naeem's place. The new partners again went from door to door, telling people they had started a new kind of school. My father is so charismatic that Hidayatullah says he is the kind of person who, once invited to your house, will make friends with your friends. But while people were happy to talk to him, they preferred to send their children to established schools. They named the school Khushal School after one of my father's great heroes, Khushal Khan Khattak, the warrior poet from Akora, just south of Swat, who tried to unify all Pashtun tribes against the Mughals in the 17th century. Near the entrance, they painted a motto: "We are committed to build for you the call of the new era." My father designed a shield with a famous quote from Khattak in Pashto: I girt my sword in the name of Afghan honor. My father wanted us to be inspired by our great hero, but in a manner fit for our times, with pens, not swords. Just as Hatak wanted Pashtuns to unite against a foreign enemy, so we needed to unite against ignorance.